it's Thomas here, and today we're going to talk some dirt. Not actual dirt, but substrate for low-tech planted tanks, which could be dirt, but I don't really use dirt. So I'm going to show you some other stuff that's not dirt, but is substrate for low-tech planted tanks, not dirt. Plants do most of their nutrient uptake through their root system. So even those liquid fertilizers that we like to put in the tank to help grow our plants, really they should be making it down to the roots in order for your plants to uptake them most effectively. So having a proper planted substrate to help facilitate that will help get your plant started off on the right foot. Or in this case, root, because plants don't have feet. Yes, there are plants that are specialized and don't require a plant-specific substrate in order to thrive. We've got floating plants like duckweed or frogbit, mosses like Java moss and Christmas moss, rhizome plants like Anubias and Java fern that can attach to the outside of driftwood and rocks. They've obviously adapted to be able to pull in the necessary nutrients that they require without having their roots buried. However, rooting plants like Ludwigia, Amazon swords, crypts, and vals even, they will require a plant-specific substrate in order to get the most out of their root systems and to be able to grow. So a plant-specific substrate can be seriously useful in those applications. So you can use an inert substrate like regular aquarium gravel, and your plants are likely to do okay, especially plants that don't necessarily require a planted substrate like we just talked about. However, I don't recommend using plain aquarium sand, and the reason that is it's got a bad tendency of compacting. It can be a little bit difficult for smaller or more delicate rooting plants to get down into and root properly. However, I do think it does a really great job of acting as an accent around planted areas where you have used planted substrate. You can make a little bit of border and then use that as an accent sand, and it looks super clean and slick and beautiful, and I like it. So if you do plan to keep rooting plants, what you should aim for is a substrate that's going to help you keep all of those lovely nutrients right where your plants can access them most easily, at the roots. There are lots of suitable options for planted substrates out there, but I like to break them down into two groups. Soft planted substrates, which are essentially pelletized soil, and then hard planted substrates that are often a rocky porous clay or stone. For a low-tech planted tank, I prefer and generally recommend using a hard substrate. Soft substrates or pelleted soils can be a little bit messier to work with when you start out, and a lot messier down the line if you need to change anything. They also break down or come apart relatively quickly and are prone to compacting, which isn't awesome. Hard substrates, on the flip side, they are very slow to break down, if at all, and generally do not create any kind of compacting over time. So that's a benefit of a hard substrate. They also have lower amounts of nutrients to start off inside of them, or less fertilizers, where pelleted substrates or soil substrates can have elevated fertilizers. And that can be an issue because you're starting a low-tech tank with low light, low CO2. If you have elevated nutrients beyond what your plants are going to be able to absorb, you're going to end up getting algae, because algae can suck up nutrients with very low light and low CO2 conditions and thrive. And the last thing you want is an algae outbreak right when you're starting off your planted aquarium. Hard substrates are very porous and help to transport any liquid nutrients you add to the tank down to the roots. So although they don't have as much fertilizer or nutrients to start off, you are able to add fertilizers over time as your plants require them, and that substrate is going to help facilitate all those nutrients getting right down to the roots where your plants need it. For this build, I'm going to be using one of my all-time favorite substrates, Seachem fluorite. Seachem fluorite is a specially fracted, stable, porous clay with a ton of necessary minerals for plant growth. It comes in a wide variety of colors and grades and is suitable for just about any planted aquarium you can think of. Another great option is Caropsi's Eco Complete. It's packed wet, so it doesn't require rinsing, and it has heterotrophic bacteria in there to help convert fish waste into plant food, which is excellent. It's also thinner than the Seachem fluorite, but thicker than Seachem fluorite sand, so it's a really nice middle ground in terms of size. Ultimately, I decided to go with Seachem because I wanted the earthier tones that the Seachem Dark and Seachem Sand have. I thought it was going to look better with this particular build than the darker blacks of the Eco Complete. I mean, it's just for aesthetics. They both work really well. I've used them both plenty of times. Seachem takes the cake this time. Next time, Eco Complete, you rascal. I'm going to be mixing both the fluorite dark and fluorite sand, as I may be using smaller plant cuttings with tiny roots, and the thinner sand will help hold them in place much better to start off than the coarser fluorite dark. At the same time, using the dark will help keep the substrate from compacting and ensure good water flow through the substrate, which can help with nutrient transport. Okay, now let's talk depth. I like to have at least 2 inches of substrate depth at the front of the tank and like to slope upwards anywhere from 4 to 6 inches at the back of the tank. The taller plants in the rear are more likely to root deeper, whereas the foreground plants will require less space to root. Of course, if you plan to put any deep rooting plants near the front as well, you can always add more substrate to compensate. This also scales with tank size and plant size. If you have a much larger tank and intend to have larger plants, you will want to increase the depth of the substrate. Not to mention that sloping your substrate is an aquascaping trick for adding more depth and dimension visually to the aquarium. Now that we've got substrate in the tank, we can plant it. But we're not going to plant yet because we're going to aquascape first. So the next episode is going to be on aquascaping. I'm going to use some stone to do the hardscape, but I won't tell you which stone. You're going to have to wait until the next episode to see what I picked out. But what I will tell you is that it rocks. Get it? Because it's a stone, and rocks and stone are the same thing. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you have any comments or questions, drop those down in the comment section below. I'd love to get back to you. And please do subscribe, because that is how you will know when the next episode is available. And every episode after that, we got lots of cool stuff coming. More builds, more plants, more everything. And as always, keep on tanking. There are lots of suitable substrates out there. Who am I? I'm Johnny Depp. There are lots of suitable substrates out there, but I like to break them down into 2 groups. Now that we've got substrate in the tank, we're ready to start planting. But we're not going to start planting yet because we have to aquascape. That's right, I am going to be aquas.